Have you ever noticed how the loudest person in the room often says the least, and the quietest woman leaves the deepest mark? There's a mystery, a strength in a woman who doesn't rush to prove herself. A woman who speaks little but owns the room the moment she enters it. Not with noise, not with words, but with presence. A kind of power that cannot be copied, cannot be explained, only felt. The kind of power that makes him stop, look, and never forget. There was a time you gave everything, your voice, your energy, your peace. You tried to explain yourself, to make him understand your heart. You chased, you questioned, you gave him every part of you, hoping he would finally see your worth. But he didn't. He didn't understand the softness you offered. He didn't value the calm strength that lives inside you. And now it's time to become the kind of woman he can feel without needing to hear. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have." And that's what happened, didn't it? You thought the more you did, the more you said, the closer he would come. But all it did was drain your light. You don't need to overgive, to overspeak, to overlove. You don't need to convince a man to notice you. A real woman doesn't move louder. She moves deeper. Think of the moon. It doesn't beg for attention. It doesn't shout. It doesn't chase the stars. It simply rises. It glows. And the whole world adjusts to its quiet, steady rhythm. That is what you are becoming. The kind of woman who doesn't reach, but receives. The kind of woman who doesn't perform, but pulls. The kind of presence that makes him pause mid-thought, unable to look away. Because now it's not your words doing the talking, it's your silence. You may not see it yet, but you're not the same woman who once waited for his attention. That woman is gone, and in her place, a fire has begun to rise, a fire that does not burn to prove. It simply warms everything in its reach. You are stepping into something deeper now, something untouchable, something powerful. This isn't about being loud. This is about being unforgettable. And that, dear woman, is what it means to live like a queen. If this message touched something deep inside you, if it reminded you of the quiet power you've always carried, then take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We're here, pouring our hearts into every word, working hard to create content that uplifts you, heals you, and helps you rise into the woman you were always meant to be. Number 1. The silence he once mistook for weakness becomes the echo that haunts him when you're gone. Have you ever noticed how quiet rooms feel louder after someone walks out of them? Not because of sound, but because of what's missing. There was a time you filled the space with your voice, your love, your energy. You tried, you reached, you explained yourself over and over, thinking if you said just the right thing, he would understand. But he didn't. He heard your words, but he never truly listened. He thought your silence was weakness. He thought that when you stopped speaking, you gave up. But now, that silence is the only thing he can hear. And here's the truth. The silence he once ignored will become the echo that haunts him. The voice that used to call his name is gone. The messages are no longer coming. The woman who once stood by him, loving with everything she had, has fallen silent. And in that silence, he will feel more than he ever did when you were speaking. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And he wasted yours. He wasted your love, your loyalty, your energy. And now you have nothing left to explain. Because the woman who once poured out her heart has gone quiet, not from weakness, but from power. Imagine a beautiful lake, still, quiet, but beneath that surface there is depth, there is strength, there is life. That's what your silence is now. Still, yet powerful. You don't need to speak to be heard. You don't need to prove anything. Because now your presence says everything. You're not invisible. You're unforgettable. And this is where the shift happens. That woman who used to wait, who used to beg for him to see her worth, she is gone, and in her place something greater has been born, a presence that doesn't chase, doesn't explain, doesn't break under pressure. You are learning to live as a queen, the kind of queen who rules with her calm, not her chaos. With grace, not noise, with silence that speaks volumes. So hear this, beautiful woman. You don't have to speak to make an impact. Let your stillness be your power. Let your silence teach him what your words never could. Let him sit with the emptiness he created, because now you rise. Write this in the comments and claim it. My silence is louder than his memory of me. Queens, write it proudly. Let it be known. You're not broken. You're reborn. If this message stirred something inside you, if you felt your power rise again, then like this video and subscribe to the channel. We're here working with heart and fire to bring you real, life-changing lessons. Because your reign is only just beginning. Number 2. He didn't fall for your noise. He fell for your energy. Have you ever wondered why he stopped being drawn to your words, your efforts, your explanations? Why, no matter how much you gave, it still didn't bring him closer? It's because it was never about what you said. It was about how you made him feel. In your stillness, in your calm, in your presence. He didn't fall for your noise. He fell for your energy. You tried to hold on with words. You tried to fix it with conversations, with reasons, with love poured out in sentences, but nothing changed. Because he wasn't listening to your voice, he was moved by the energy behind it. And when that energy started fading under the weight of trying too hard, he started slipping away. But here's what you might not realize yet. That quiet power you carry, the energy that lives in your stillness, in your eyes, in your walk, that's what made him stop and look in the first place. As Rumi once said, don't get lost in your words, because your silence holds more truth than speech ever will. And now it's time to return to that truth. You don't need to talk over your pain to heal. You don't need to shout your worth for him to see it. You are the light that fills the room without making a sound. A woman like that, she's unforgettable. Think of a candle in a dark room. It doesn't yell, it doesn't push, it just glows, softly, steadily, and everything around it feels warmer, safer. That's the kind of presence you once had. And now you're being called back to it. Back to that quiet power. Back to the version of yourself that doesn't over-explain, but instead holds the kind of energy that makes him lean in, not pull away. You've spoken enough. You've tried enough. The real shift happens when you become enough. For yourself first. This is not the end of your story. This is the moment where you stop performing and start reigning. Because the woman who doesn't need to prove her worth, she becomes the one he can't forget. Queens, write this in the comments and claim it. He didn't fall for my noise. He fell for my energy. Let it be your reminder that your power lives in your presence, not your words. We're working hard to bring you content that changes lives, starting with yours. Number 3. A woman who no longer speaks to prove herself becomes unforgettable in his memory. Have you ever noticed how the moment you stop trying to be heard, that's when he finally starts to listen? Not to your words, but to your absence, your energy, your presence. When a woman no longer speaks just to prove herself, she becomes something unforgettable in his world. Not because she shouted her worth, but because she walked in it silently. That kind of woman stays with him, not in noise, but in memory. There was a time you tried everything. You repeated your feelings. You explained your value. You gave him your truth, your softness, your heart, over and over. And still, he didn't understand it. Still, he made you feel like you weren't enough. So now, you've gone quiet. But don't mistake that quiet for weakness, because now your silence speaks louder than your voice ever did. Seneca once said, "The best answer to anger is silence." But silence is more than just a response. It's a mirror. Now he has to sit with everything he ignored. He has to hear the echo of what you no longer say. The things you once tried so hard to explain now scream in the space you've left behind. Imagine a deep lake at sunrise, calm, still, silent. Yet, when you look at it, it reflects everything, every light, every shadow. That's you now. He sees himself in what he lost. He sees the truth in your stillness. Because you've become the kind of woman who doesn't need to explain her worth. She simply lives it. And once a woman becomes that powerful, he doesn't forget. Not in a year, not even in a lifetime. He may find new attention, new voices, but nothing will sound like the silence you left behind. And when he realizes that, you will already be gone. Because a woman who no longer speaks to be chosen becomes the woman who is never forgotten. Lovely woman, you are not broken, you are becoming, you are not invisible, you are rising, you are not done, you are just beginning, you are stepping into a new version of yourself, one that reigns not by force, but by quiet, graceful power. Affirm this now, my silence made me unforgettable. Queens, write this in the comments and claim it as yours. We are here, creating these life-changing lessons to help you rise, speak less, and reign more. Number 4. Your silence is not punishment. It's a lesson. Have you ever watched a candle burn out quietly? No bang, no shout, just a soft flicker, and then darkness. That's how silence feels to a man who once had your fire and thought it would never fade. He was used to your words. He expected your voice, your explanations, your efforts. And now that you've gone quiet, he feels the change. But here's the truth he never saw coming. Your silence is not punishment. It's a lesson. You used to explain every tear, defend every emotion, beg to be understood. You thought if he just heard you enough, he would see your heart. But now, you've stopped trying. Not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring for yourself. And that silence, it's teaching him the value of everything he took for granted. Seneca once said, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage, and sometimes to stay quiet is an act of power." Not every lesson is spoken out loud. Some are taught in distance, in silence, in your calm retreat. A woman doesn't need to shout to make her absence felt. She only needs to stop explaining. Think of a garden. It flourishes in stillness. It grows quietly. But when someone steps on the flowers, pulls at the roots, ignores the beauty, eventually the garden closes off. It stops blooming. It protects itself. You are that garden. And now, you're no longer growing for him. You're blooming for yourself. He thought silence meant defeat. He thought your quiet would be short, just another pause before another chance. But what he doesn't realize is that the woman who once tried to hold on has already let go. You are no longer trying to teach him with your words. You're letting your silence teach him what your voice no longer will. Now is your time to step into something greater, a softer, deeper power, not loud, not aggressive, but unshakable. This is what it means to live like a queen. A queen does not punish with words. She teaches with presence. She transforms pain into power and vanishes with grace. Write this in the comments and claim it. My silence is my power. Let the world know you've stopped explaining, stopped chasing, and started rising. Queens, if this spoke to your soul, if it reminded you of who you truly are, then like this video and subscribe. We are here working hard to bring you life-changing lessons because you were never meant to beg, you were meant to reign. Number 5. You were never too quiet. He was just too loud to hear your soul. Have you ever wondered why he didn't hear you, even when you were right there, loving, giving, showing up with everything you had? You weren't silent. You weren't invisible. You were present in ways that can't be measured by noise. But he couldn't see it. He couldn't feel it. Because he was too loud, too distracted, too full of himself to hear the quiet truth of your soul. You were never too quiet. He just wasn't still enough to understand you. Some women speak in paragraphs, others in presence. And presence, real, feminine, magnetic presence, doesn't shout. It doesn't beg. It just is. It's the way your eyes held his chaos, the way your energy brought calm to his storms. But instead of seeing your silence as strength, he called it distance. Instead of feeling your depth, he blamed you for being hard to reach. But the truth? He just never stood still long enough to feel what was always there. Rumi once said, "The quieter you become, the more you are able to hear." But not every man is ready to listen. Not every man deserves the kind of love that speaks without sound. A man who needs noise to feel wanted will never recognize the woman whose silence speaks volumes. Think of a candle in a noisy, storm-filled room. It doesn't fight the wind. It doesn't scream. It simply stays lit, software steady, undeniable. That was you. He ran from the stillness because he wasn't ready for something real. He chased noise, surface, sparkles, but real warmth doesn't come from fireworks. It comes from fire. And you, dear woman, were the fire. But now, you are stepping into something more powerful than words. You are no longer explaining. You are no longer trying to be louder. You are becoming a woman who lives in her silence and lets that silence say everything. Because now, you are no longer just the woman he ignored. You are becoming a queen. A queen doesn't raise her voice to be noticed. A queen stands still and the world listens. He didn't hear you before? Let him feel your silence now. That's the kind of presence that cannot be forgotten. Queens, write this in the comments and claim it. He was too loud to hear my soul. Now my silence speaks louder than ever. Let the world know that you are done proving, done explaining, done lowering your light. We are here, working hard to bring you life-changing lessons that help you rise into your true power. Your reign begins now. Number 6. He will search for your silence in every voice, but he'll never find it again. Have you ever watched a man walk away thinking he made the right choice, only to realize much later that the silence you left behind speaks louder than any goodbye? He won't say it out loud, but he feels it. He listens for your voice in every conversation. He scans every smile, every laugh, hoping to feel that same peace, that same presence, but he won't. Because what you gave was not just attention, it was energy, it was soul. And now that it's gone, he will search for your silence in every voice, but he'll never find it again. At first, he didn't understand it. He thought you were quiet, maybe even too soft. Maybe you didn't say enough. But now he feels the difference, because your silence wasn't empty. It was full. It carried love. It carried calm. It carried the kind of connection that most people never even taste. And now that you've stopped explaining, stopped reaching, stopped filling the space with words, he finally hears what he lost. Stillness is not weakness. It's the loudest kind of strength, said a wise woman once. And you, beautiful soul, are beginning to understand that. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to prove anything. Because the moment you stop giving him your energy, your presence becomes the absence he can't escape. Think of a warm fire in a cold room. At first, he didn't even notice the warmth. It was just there, expected. But when the fire goes out, when the silence replaces the heat, that's when the cold hits hardest. That's when he starts to remember what he had. He will find women who talk more, laugh louder, try harder. But none of them will feel like you, because you never tried to impress him. You simply were. And now that stillness is what he craves, and what he can no longer reach. You are not forgotten. You are not replaceable. You are the standard he will keep measuring others against, and none of them will ever measure up. You are stepping into a new kind of power now, a softer, bolder, deeper kind. Not the kind that begs to be seen, but the kind that is impossible to ignore. That, dear woman, is the silent power of your feminine presence. Write this in the comments and claim it, queens. He will search for my silence, but he'll never find it again. Let this be your reminder that your energy is sacred. Your love is not a free gift. And your silence, that is your crown. We're working hard to create life-changing messages just for you, because queens like you don't chase, you reign. Number 7. The less you say, the more he craves the sound of your presence. Have you ever noticed how the quietest moments leave the deepest marks? How a glance, a pause, or even your silence can make him feel more than all the words in the world. That's because real presence doesn't need noise. Real power doesn't need to explain itself. The less you say, the more he starts to feel your absence, your mystery, your energy. And suddenly, the woman he thought would always speak stops. And in that silence, he begins to crave what he once took for granted. You may have once tried everything. You gave your heart, your time, your voice. You over-explained, over-texted, over-loved, hoping he would understand your worth. But it only made him comfortable. It made him think your love was guaranteed. Until now. Now you've gone quiet. Now you've stopped proving. And that shift, it's the very thing he never saw coming. There's a quote that says, "The most powerful voice is the one that doesn't have to raise itself." And that's the voice you're stepping into now. A quiet, calm, untouchable energy that lingers long after you've left the room. Think of a candle in a dark space. It doesn't flicker wildly. It just glows, softly, constantly. And yet, it draws every eye. That's the kind of light he now notices, not because it shouted, but because it stayed. In relationships, the woman who speaks with her energy instead of her mouth becomes the mystery he can't shake. Your silence holds weight now. It carries depth. And every time he doesn't hear from you, every time you don't react, every time you choose grace over chaos, he feels it. Because silence from a woman like you is never empty. It speaks volumes. This isn't about punishing him. This is about remembering who you are. You don't need to beg for attention, explain your worth, or fight to be seen. That's not your path anymore. You are stepping into something sacred. You're stepping into presence, and that, beautiful woman, is where your true power lives. So rise into it. Let your silence speak. Let your absence echo. Let your calmness make him restless. And when he finally realizes what he lost, it will be too late. Because you, dear woman, have already stepped into your queendom. Write this affirmation in the comments and claim it. My silence speaks louder than my words. Queens, if this message stirred something inside you, like this video and subscribe to the channel. We're working hard to bring you real, life-changing lessons because you were never meant to chase love. You were meant to reign in it.